I'm really looking forward to seeing Overpass because I want to see what Endpoint can do on a CT side of Overpass because it's a bit different from what we saw yesterday from them when, for example, with, Mirage, let's say, or Inferno, where they can just play reactively, just play the sides, give up information. Obviously, we understand Overpass to be a map where on the CT side, you really want to pressure very heavily at the beginning of a round, take a lot of space on the map, and be very active on that CT side. So I'm really looking forward to just seeing what that looks like for Endpoint, and they are going to be starting off here on the CT side.
Indeed they are, and we'll leave it to Yumi and Scrib to take you through this series.
So, Endpoint, starting off on that CT side, Mighty Max does have a smoke and a kit available to them, but the London Esports side are just going to go barreling onto this bomb site. Soulcast and Stanley's getting the first 2 kills, Eccles chiming in as well, and Mighty Max sitting all by his lonesome as Robin's the last remaining player now, as London should be able to get the post-plant positions, and don't see Robin being able to recover that kit as well as being able to really contest this retake, coming into this first pistol round.
Yeah, just the classic B rush kind of working out. Not a great deal of utility used initially. They're kind of saving a lot of it for the post plant. They just popped a lot of heads really, and very clean take from London. That's sort of the juxtaposition between these two teams already coming in. London with the strong individuals just charging down. Not a great deal of strategy straight out of the bag. Just trying to, like I say, find the heads, and they do a great job of doing so. Robin just going to save what he's got. I remember he tried to do this yesterday, and save that armor for the cheaper head armor, and ended up taking damage to the bomb. So maybe he's learned his lesson this time. He has indeed. So not going to take a single point of damage, and he will save himself a little bit of cash. But London, yeah, off to a very, very dominant start.
Oh, look at that, a cheap helmet.
Hell yeah.
I'm so happy right now.
I like that they're going for the buy, so they can get the orbs on the, if it fails, they can get the orbs in the 4th round.
Yeah, we saw pretty good AWP work from Laza in the previous series. I think as well, if we get to see Astro on the CT side, I think he'll play very, very kind of smart when he goes for his duels. We saw him on a retake situation, or kind of a one and done on the A side of Dust 2, and he was playing very passive, very smart. But Endpoint, given the fact that they've bought into this round, are not really peeking all too much, and that's allowing a lot of space for London to kind of get onto this bomb site. Link will get the first 2 with the MAC-10, and that's the buy completely almost shut down by the London side.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shame there. They go for the boost, but it was just kind of a bit late. And then they see there's no one there, drop down, and both those players that were, making the boost turn straight into a flashbang, and it makes for easy frags for Link in the end. Mighty Max able to trade one back on the scout from Heaven. But for the most part, they're going to try and save. Stanley, meanwhile, is on the lurk here. Not quite able to drop Mighty Max, but I think they might chase a little bit for this. But yeah, London, once again, a really, really dominant round coming in, up against a buy. Quick B hit, not quite as, early in the round this time around, but still pretty aggressive from them, right in the face of their opponents. Like you say, both teams kind of comfortable on this map, but I think London certainly a little bit more comfortable on the T side of things, just because of that faster pace that they're able to employ.
And strangely enough, it's kind of no forward positions
really,
taken by Endpoint on a buy like this. Usually, we kind of talked about it before, kind of getting that aggression on the CT side can be so kind of advantageous for you, right? You can cheat those rotates over a little bit quicker. You can potentially get into a flanking position, wrapping through T-spawn or something of the sort. But instead, they allowed London a lot of kind of the freedom to choose how they wanted to approach the round.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're on a buy like that, you may as well go for the aggressive plays and try and find something somewhere, because there's a little bit less, risk associated with it.
I like this, though.
Yeah, it's pretty smart. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be an A hit coming in, or Stanley is about to have a bit of a gift here, manages to drop the burst, and Luzza, at the very least, is stuck in between that entire T side right here, trying to push in escape, but Stanley with the 3K coming through, beautiful spray down on towards Pulse as well. He cleans up after getting dinked initially. The fact that he's able to pick up 2 more is pretty filthy, and the A side now going to be easy pickings for London by the looks of things.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I feel like the idea is, right, you just get the one, you fall off, right, maybe escape through connector. But unfortunately, not expecting the forward position in connector as well.
Importantly, they're protecting the AK that's down in connector. There isn't really a ideal place to dispose of it. So it's important that they make sure that does not get into the hands of the team. And with Stanley on 5 HP, Eccles needs to stay around as well. But I like the force buys as long as you have a plan. for that extra round, because if you think of it, if you're starting with round 4 with your buy, you have an extra $1,000 over what you would used to have, because you're $500 ahead in your loss bonus at the start of the pistol. So as we can see, they'll have a pretty damn good buy and more grenades than they would otherwise have, having failed a force buy on round number 2.
Yeah, and we'll see immediately the Laza on the AWP, a lot of utility for the CT side to mitigate some of this rush potential and the kind of the faster pace that London have been using in these past 3 rounds. We'll see where Laza decides to go for that opening duel, because I think it will come down to, we kind of mentioned it in previous series as well, whether they can get him online and really contributing to these rounds early and on into the game.
Yeah, again though, I feel like maybe more classically getting aggressive with the AWP is not quite Luzza's style a lot of the time. So we'll see, and I think London obviously a little bit aware of that, using a few smokes and things and just walking up, playing on the contact. Luzza has kind of repositioned to where these smokes are coming through, and you could see what we could see. He would have had a fair few kills, but manages to take down Astra at the very least, ready for them to come in from long, which is not going to be the case. It's a very aggressive hit once again coming in from the short position. Soulcast able to drop another, but Mighty Max is still here at the back of the site. Meanwhile, the rotations are the ones getting taken down. It's the initial site holders doing all the work. Flash comes in, but doesn't really blind anyone up at all. Mighty Max, however, into the 1 versus 1, has remained alive here at the back of this site. Been a thorn in the side of London for quite a while, but now he's the only one remaining. Oh, and Eccles looks away at the wrong time. I'm not quite sure he's aware of where Mighty Max is coming from, and Mighty Max gets the spray down as he captures Eccles off guard, and it will be the first round going the way of Endpoint.
Some good signs from London, especially though, just based on the fact that they initially spotted out that first player on the A site. Lazo was able to get this opening duel. He finds the first pick onto Astro, and immediately London just pick up the pace. They know the jig is up. They kind of tried to contact up, and maybe a bit questionable that they didn't use a bit of utility, but just hoping that they were just treating the smoke as a wall, right, and not kind of honoring that push.
Yeah. I think as well, though, they left, like, Dumpster completely open, and they managed to pick up a couple of kills from there off the, you know, like I say, off the rotational players. So it's a bit of a shame that Mighty Max is the one that ends up not being dealt with. And in those clutch situations, he's always known as quite a smart player, quite a pesky player. Gets the best of Eccles in the end, so. But now, of course, not the greatest of buys for Endpoint. London still able to afford something reasonably workable, well equipped coming into this. It's just kind of a case of, you know, trying to find the reset onto their opponents now. It could be a really solid start for them on this T side, and changing the pace up a little bit. Going to slow things down and look to line up a bit of an execute, it would seem.
Minute remaining. They're still kind of trying to bait out some utility from the Endpoint side, see if they can't get these CTs to over-rotate to one of these sites, as they do have connector control, so they can still double back if that is their choice. But using that lurk smoke towards long, they're still pretty set on hitting this A bomb site, and as these grenades fly over, now this is the rotation. There's 3 players actually available for Endpoint on this hit.
Max is in such an odd position there, gets kind of caught off guard. Luzza, though, still got to deal with him in that flank position, picks up yet another kill, manages to survive even longer, buying time for the rotation, swaps across to the AK, and that forces London both into the same spot. His final 2 players going to find it a little bit awkward, you know, can't play from the general default area in towards short. Astro is trying to take the initiative, but gets caught out in the open. It's all going to be on towards Soulcast. They know that surely he's got to be over towards long, but they're not entirely sure. He's able to drop Pulse initially. Reposition as well to take down Robin and low HP Luzza, but he can't find the spray transfer, and Endpoint will be very, very lucky to get a second round on the board, but at least keeping it competitive and managing to string 2 together.
And that's the second time that they've won a round on the CC side with only 1 player remaining alive. You see the money for Endpoint isn't that great. Granted, they've kind of busted the bank a little bit for the London side. The buy wouldn't be all too great, but they're still going to invest in. They're going to buy a couple of Mac 10s on those players on a little bit of a lower money situation. We'll see if Eccles and Dom can kind of deliver in terms of providing the space and getting maybe a few weapons into the hands of his teammates that weren't so lucky this round.
A little bit of a slower start again from London, playing kind of a solid default this time around. Waiting to spot out any aggression, any cheeky boosts. Leaving Eccles over here. Spamming down a little bit, but not a great deal to find at the moment. It's such a broken buy from this T side. They need something to just give them a small advantage early on.
Given the fact, sorry, they have these SMGs,
Yeah.
I imagine they'll kind of group up together, maybe do something rather almost scrimmy is what some people refer to it as, just like setting up a smoke, maybe pop flashing through it, because that is something that can really catch Endpoint out, and the space that can be created with these SMGs and these pistols is just so rapid that it might be able to catch out the rotations even from the Endpoint side.
Yeah, this is something as well that we were kind of talking about in the pregame where early aggression from the CT side to try and gain control is always quite effective, but it seems Endpoint are happy to give that bathrooms, that short control up quite consistently. Obviously losing a player on the T side of things as well as Eccles on the flank. One of those two AK players, importantly, gets dropped. So it's going to be a very telegraphed play coming in from London, but Soulcast able to drop Luzzer early on. Mighty Max in a very passive position with that SMG. Can't really do a great deal. So the bomb at the very least is going to go down for that T side. Doesn't seem they've got anyone on the long flank either for the CT side of things. So full frontal attack coming through. A few kits available, but very, very little utility. Trying to go for a boost up to catch someone off guard here, but no one is biting at this point in time. London realize what kind of position they're in, and I think, yeah, call to save. They're not able to find, you know, one of the early picks on the retake, and very little information to work with. So they're just going to back away. Well, Mighty Max seems to have other ideas.
I think it's pretty interesting so far because I think Endpoint are being punished pretty heavily for what we've all sort of discussed already, which is just wanting to just play too passively on the map, because London are being pretty telegraphed with how they are moving around the map. They have a couple defaults where they throw those two smokes on bathrooms and they just always sort of just walk up behind those smokes and they just leave a lurker towards sewers. And they tried to throw Endpoint off a bit in that last round by playing it a lot slower. But I feel like for Endpoint, they just have to start getting a bit more aggressive and to actually figure out what's going on, or to even just play off of what appears to be quite telegraphed and just use it as a guess, stack towards one site and so on. They need to be more proactive, I think.
Yeah, and that sole kind of entry on the A site instantly, Endpoint have really no foothold on the retake.
Luz is consistently hitting Astro with this HE early from the bench position, which is pretty good because that just makes it a few less bullets later on if he takes an engagement. Nice consistent utility damage there.
It's one thing I think they work on in the Endpoint kind of camp is, you know, a few useful nades. You know, we saw one yesterday on Inferno from Mighty Max that was really, really good. But they do have all those sorts of things in the back pocket, which, again, kind of in the UK scene, a lot of players don't take the time out to learn those little things more often than not.
Ooh, Stanley. Yeah, he's going to catch out Luzzer there. They went for the flash play on Banana as well. They tried to get some information and ultimately punished for it. I wasn't actually sure whether Stanley would have heard him, but regardless of that, Luzzer deploying the smoke gives up his position, and that'll be the first entry going the way of Endpoint, or going the way of London, sorry. But
I think that was kind of the thing from Luzzer. He's a little bit scared that he'd already been spotted out. But unfortunately, like you say, gave himself away. That's going to leave the A site right for the taking. Once again, it is just Mighty Max to anchor this down, able to drop the first and the second as well. Once again, staying alive, almost the third. But eventually traded, but he buys time for the rotations, importantly. It seems there's going to be 2 in on the flank. Not so sure from Stanley getting aggressive, you know, before the bomb is even down. It looks like from the plant, though, they wanted to play to that side of the site. Great nade comes in from Robin as well to pick up another. And Soulcast, the only one remaining on 26 HP. Not a great deal of hope for him as they do go hunting, and he will get taken down. So Endpoint in with, once again, another great retake. As London, it looked good initially, but Mighty Max is just such a problem for them on that A side.
yeah, and the reason Stanley goes for that fight and bank is because they'd actually planted for CT, right? He wants to try and get the opening engagement, maybe take up that position himself, and that way he has a decent enough post plant to maybe be a bit of a problem for Endpoint. But these 2 kills here from Max are so crucial. Him staying alive for so long, it stops the progression much further. This nice shot from Robin opens things up, and then they had the utility available on the Endpoint side. They were able to use it efficiently, and ultimately that's the round going their way. So London now on a bit of a back foot, kind of half buying into this round. We'll see how they choose to approach it. They've got the Deagles available. They've got a couple of upgraded pistols. But so far, just playing kind of a little bit pick-based. Eccles trying to see if he can't prod a little bit, and London once again taking middle and bathrooms control, as they have been able to do consistently throughout this game so far.
Yeah, it seems to be working recently for Endpoint. I suppose maybe the idea is to play passively, and then if they start losing a few rounds, start to get aggressive then. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type mentality, but I'm not so sure at this point. These pistols are going to overwhelm the site very easily indeed. That'll be an AWP and an M4 recovered. There's a couple of players with armor as well, and just baiting each other out perfectly, getting the trades in. Still a man advantage for the T side. Both Robin and Pulse making a lot of noise coming in from dumps to hit. Great post plants for the London side. Link on that AWP in towards long. Going to be the first point of contact, one would imagine. But, oh, it's Stanley, in fact, just holding the corner pretty aggressively indeed. He does get dropped eventually, but leaves Pulse on 6 HP. He's just going to try and go for the hold, but a Deagle and an AWP. It's so hard to find this, but Link with the left click will take him down. And London managed to steal away around, and that's where that passive A setup comes back to haunt Endpoint.
Yeah, they've been punished now twice, especially like the fact that they're able to get so far up onto the site before anybody on Endpoint has spotted a player. It's going to allow those pistols just enough room to really get into that effective combat range, right? Just landing that initial headshot and just overwhelming both those players.
And that's the problem. You'll end up playing to London's advantage because it's too easy for them to get close to the site when they've got close range weapons. They can swarm with the numbers, overwhelm. You saw Lazar took the first shot, had a quick jump peek while he had to cool down at AWP to see where the players are moving. But ultimately, you've got to abuse the range when you know the economy is low for your opponent. So if he's playing with the AWP from sight, facing people at the entrance to toilets, it's not going to go so well. But Thomas may be able to rescue the situation for Endpoint, because they only had, I think, 2 rifles going into the beginning of this round. Now London are moving away, but they still have possession of the bomb.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a mess. It looked good for a second. You know, they lost 1 player on short. Eccles quickly deals with the double push, but like you say, Thomas on that M4 certainly doing work, making it worthwhile. But I think they're very, very unsure of where this bomb is going to go. Kind of splitting the defense. It allows the T side to isolate the 1 versus 1s. Thomas getting a little bit proactive here though, and he is going to spot out Stanley just by the crack. And he's not ready for Thomas to have rotated already. Gets taken down, facing the wrong way, and into a 2-on-1. Definitely going to be the A side at this point. The bomb plant out in the open from Astro. He cancels it as he tries to find the frag. Smoke comes in. Not quite able to pick up the kill yet, Luzzer, but I feel like with the pincer moving in slowly, yeah, just gets the bomb out at the wrong time, and Thomas able to drop him with the positional advantage. So a 4th round for Endpoint. And once again, it seems it's a little bit back and forth towards the start of this one. But yeah, Thomas with a fantastic hold. It's so difficult sometimes on that B site. There's so many kind of nooks and crannies. If you're not able to deal with that player in the awkward position quick enough, he can devastate the round, as Thomas did there.
Yeah, and it was a great job kind of on that rotation, spotting out the rump of one of those players. That's massive for him, right? Because that 1v1 that you were talking about, that potential for the T side, he's able to come out in a huge advantage in that fight.
Look at the reaction now from Endpoint. Well, firstly, that's a huge opportunity lost for London, but we are seeing more aggression. Rather than just throwing the grenade and falling off, Luz has actually had a peek. Nobody was there, but now he's playing aggressive towards long, so Endpoint are being reactive here.
Ooh. If you can't hit your shots, doesn't matter if you got the 200 IQs. We'll see though. Robin with the follow-up does manage to bring it back into a 3-on-3, so still competitive from both sides. I think the T side though have got a fair amount of control over towards A once again. Got to deal with Luzzer on the AWP. Once the T side regroups, he's going to have to be very careful indeed to not miss a shot. I feel like there's loads of spots on that A site where you can just kind of go for some cheeky jump peeks and spot out information. Did he see Astro in long? I think he might just have spotted him. It all depends on when this T side wants to move in. Great flash comes in, but not quite effective enough. It will at least push Luzzer back. So A control in for London by the looks of things. Bomb going to go down. And once again, it's a very full frontal attack from the Endpoint side on this retake. They have a little bit of utility to work with. Robin on half HP is not really ideal, and the AWP is never comfortable in the close range situation I think it's going to be put into, because they are going to be going for this retake here. Astro and Soulcast so close to each other, but Soulcast is all that is needed. Astro strikes, can't quite get the spray transfer. It's all onto Luzzer in a 1-on-3, as he does manage to find the first smoke. Going to go down onto the bomb. He taps it, gets tagged down very low indeed, but picks up Soulcast, and now just has to wait for Link. Trying to find the kit, there's not enough time, and Link peaks at the right time to drop him. A 6th round for London as they finally put a stop to Endpoint's little tear.
Yeah, it's been back and forth in these rounds, and the rounds that Endpoint have won, so far 2 of them have come down to 1v1s, right? Again, that kind of retake-oriented approach in some of these rounds has been somewhat of a detriment to them, playing on those sites, just waiting for those rotations constantly and hoping that they have enough utility available. We just hope that they're able to continue to employ that kind of aggressive style here. Seemed like Luzza actually went for the peek in Monster as well with the AWP, and ultimately comes up empty-handed. Eccles spotted out, but this is just the default setup for London. They're just spreading out and seeing if they can't find some of these Endpoint players, looking for a little bit of information, and maybe... I think this is a bit telegraphed from Endpoint at this point, though, just because of the fact that they've been playing passive for a long time. London are anticipating a bit of an adaptation, and they're ultimately able to find these kills, then playing a little bit slower and kind of working these picks methodically, double peeking and there for the trade on Mighty Max. London now have pretty much free reign on that A site. The rotation's coming through. Robin spotted out on the flank. They'll now double back all the way through connector towards that B site. Eccles with the bomb as well.
Bit of a shame for Max there. I think if they walked past him and didn't check the angle, he may well have had a bit of an opportunity to pick up a few more. Nice little bait jump, I suppose. I'm not sure if that was the intention from Luzzer, but it works out as Pulse able to drop Stanley, gets his hands onto a UMP. But I feel, you know, Glass Cannon AWP and just a UMP probably going to look to save what they have here. So it should be another round for London in the bag. And, you know, like you say, it's been very, very back and forth recently. But because of the initial string of rounds, you know, the 3 at the start that London were able to pick up, dealing with the 4 spies effectively, they've just got that 3-round lead now, you know. So it's kind of the early game that has really made a difference here.
Yeah, because it has been back and forth, London aren't going to hunt too aggressively for these rifles. Granted, that may actually prompt Endpoint to kind of try and play around these weapons a little bit, maybe try and cycle it through a few hands if possible. Granted, I kind of expect Luzza to maybe get aggressive and then have a player very, very close behind him.
He's got a CZ, drop it across to a pal. You know, the buddy system, always kind of effective. But I mean, we've seen throughout the years how effective the AWP can be on the CT side in a round like this, where, again, there's less risk associated with the plays that you want to make. But also, at the same time, it's not quite where Luzza finds himself comfortable getting crazy aggressive. You know, he'll take early peaks and things, but pushing in contact style or something like that is not really what he tends to go for. So we'll have to see how they decide to play it. Got the AK here in the form of Pulse, but unfortunately he gets dropped. Mighty Max, Robin, soon to follow, and Luzza kind of backs away. Thomas on the 5-7 tries to pick up what he can, but Luzza is here with the AWP, misses the shot. I think he got the tag, yeah, but Link will deal with him in the end. And a fast round comes in for London, as they will double the scoreline of their opponents.
And Pulse not getting 1 there is actually a very big deal. If he gets that 1, then there's enough space for that boost to be dropped. They can maybe progress onto the site, help him out a little bit, but the instant entry for London is hugely detrimental to holding onto that B-bomb site.
We'll see now, a bit of a weaker buy coming in from Endpoint yet again, but good utility usage, puts a spanner in the plans for London. And they very drastically swap their aggression towards short, as they seem to once again set up a little bit of a quasi-default, I suppose, waiting for someone on the CT side to get aggressive. Just as the smoke dissipates, though, Robin gets spotted out, and Stanley's able to deal with Mighty Max trying to take him down, but not the initial player. So a 4-on-4, but good control gain from London. There's still Eccles nearby. I'm not so sure they are aware of him at this point. Oh, but a great position from Luzza. They do not check him at all. Link, though, with the 180, manages to drop him somehow. Left on 29 HP. So back into a 3-on-3. It's still, as it has been for the entire game, kind of ever competitive in these rounds. The early picks never tend to go untraded by either side. Moving in towards B, the T side Oh, we're a little bit split here.
There's
That
a bit
might just work out for Robin.
There's a bit of an awkward dance in towards T-Spawn because they know Robin was in connector, they didn't hunt him down, but now Eccles dealing with that will allow his teammates to rendezvous at the B bomb site.
That's not great for Robin, you know, kind of just sort of running in. I think he was in the camp of not realizing they're actually on B. I do like this from London, though. They get this small amount of control, and then they just wait for a little bit of time, especially with Robin coming in from behind and spotting them. Instead of just moving into the site, they wait and see if anyone's going to peek into them. I feel like with this bomb going down now, Endpoint probably just going to look to save, indeed. So London seem to have regained control of the game, getting the past 4 in a row. It's the nature of that back and forth fighting. As soon as a team kind of cleanly wins 1 or 2 rounds, you reset your opponents, and then it's just very difficult for them for the rest of the half to pull out a decent buy and work comfortably, as it were. So London, I feel as well for most of this game, we've talked about Endpoint being a little bit too passive, especially over towards A. I feel like London are just dictating the pace of this game so much, and they're allowed to play their own game. Endpoint just taking a bit of a, you know, pasting in some places. It's not really the ideal way to start off the series, unfortunately.
Yeah, and of course, last time Endpoint and London played, it actually ended in a 16-10 scoreline in favor of London, right? So maybe able to sort of replicate that kind of performance, bring some of that to the table. Granted, I think London at the time were playing with Artis, who is now currently signed as an Endpoint player, which is a bit of an awkward situation as a whole. He was a big contributing factor in those games, dropping, I think, 20 average kills across the series. But this time, Endpoint on a very, very weak kind of quasi-buy around those 2 rifles. Thomas will look to get aggressive with his, but ultimately thinking better of it, backing towards those bomb sites. It will be onto these pistols to maybe find the opening pick, and Laza will find it. Stanley goes down. Unable to recover the AK, though, and more players on the horizon. He desperately wants something to come his way, any sort of backup. Robin will now get to that position and maybe be able to fortify that position on the A site. But so far, a 1-for-1 exchange.
A little bit of a shame for him there. You know, he was desperately trying to find that second headshot, and I feel just a few inches away. Robin goes for the peek in. Link is ready for it. I think was, you know, guarding that dropped weapon. Very well done so from him to read into that situation that eventually someone would push in. And now London have that man advantage. They recognise the fact that there's a couple saved weapons still in play, but for the most part it's a weak buy from Endpoint. Eccles lurking here over towards B as well, doing great work as he picks up a first and kind of keeping that second player in the rotational position here, which will allow, in theory, his teammates to take control of the A site. Still got Mighty Max unaccounted for, and usually, to be fair, he is on this A site, so I think they are a little bit apprehensive, at least for the moment. Going to be able to get the bomb down, though, and once again, I feel like Endpoint just going to go for the save. Do have a kit available, but, you know, half HP on Mighty Max, and very little information, once again, to work with in the man disadvantage scenario. So it'll be double digits for London, as it has really been all about them in these past few rounds. Kind of slowing the pace down as, again, you know, Endpoint give them a bit too much control, and that allows them to just methodically work through the rounds, and they almost know round by round what control they're going to be given, just because of the way that Endpoint are so consistent with their passive setup.
Yeah, and because they're not able to string rounds together on that CT side as well, they never had a kind of a stable economy to work around. It seems like a number of times it's this kind of same situation, saving a few weapons and then kind of half buying or forcing around those guns to see if they can maybe capitalize off of that small bit of equipment available for them.
We'll see, though. This is interesting. I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we didn't actually see Pulse on that second AWP, I don't think, at all, as it wasn't really required in their series against Vext. But they are going to pull out the double AWP setup here, and sometimes it can be very, very effective for Endpoint. Something that I feel quite recently, maybe the past, you know, month or so, they have pulled into their arsenal. I say that, and Astro will pick up the first onto Luzza. Thomas tries to answer back, but, you know, trading 1-for-1 in a situation like that is not really ideal. Mighty Max hard baiting here at long, but it doesn't seem that anyone is going to be coming his way, unfortunately. So first 2 picks, as you can kind of see by the minimap, over towards that A site gives a lot of control once again to London. They try and get aggressive this round, Endpoint, maybe hearing us a little bit, and it really does not work out.
Yeah, it might just be a little bit too late. It seems kind of privy to the fact that Mighty Max might be at the long position right behind his teammate, but it still won't disincentivize these players from continuing this kind of lurk style that we've seen a number of rounds so far. And Eccles will once again find an opening pick on towards that B site. So with that engagement going their way, they expect Endpoint maybe cheating a rotation over now, trying to hold on to what little real estate they can, but has to come down to these players, and ultimately Mighty Max dropped. Robin in the 1 versus 4, unable to deal with the flank, and Eccles will take him down. London will get to 11 rounds as they swap to the CT side.
Yeah, Robin and Pulse really lagging behind the rest of the boys on the Endpoint side, which is never good. We saw a great performance from Pulse on Inferno yesterday, so...
CT side can be positional dependent though as well. Like if all your teammates get taken out and you're saving a lot of time, you know, so you've got to take it with a pinch of salt.
True.
On the CT side, I feel like those rounds from Endpoint where they just cost so much money, or worse, when they were basically eco or on a half buy towards the A bomb site, really cost Endpoint in that first half. Although with 4 rounds on the board, the pistol round is an opportunity to get back into the game, and now it's their turn to abuse the numbers towards B.
Ooh, Thomas to open up though. We saw a very dominant T-side pistol from London, and it looks like maybe we're in for something of the same. It's the first 2 initial line of defense on that B bomb site going to get dropped relatively easily. Bomb going to go down. There's a lot of utility available here actually for the London guys, and obviously the kit in the hand of Astro. So we'll see what they can do, but just the fact that they've done no damage at all here and very, very little information to work with Astro with a bit of a disrespect. 1 tap, but unfortunately that's the only kill that will come in for London. As it's a bit of deja vu over on that B-bomb site. This time it goes the way of Endpoint, however, so possibly an opportunity for them to start to string a few rounds back.
And I'm actually interested to see whether London go for the same thing here, right? The force buy in that second round, he can make it work on overpass kind of historically throughout the map. I don't really see it being converted all too often recently, but getting that AWP and getting the utility available for that first gun round in round 4 will definitely be to London's favor, especially with the round lead that they have. They're definitely comfortable giving a few away to Endpoint.
I feel like this is the thing, when you have such a lead, it's safe to do kind of both options, where you could force or you could just hard eco and go for the earlier buy, because you have so much kind of room to work with. But I like this. Again, it's a case of, we've seen it across the weekend, a case of just keeping the pressure on your opponents when they're already kind of down in the dumps. They get a pistol on the board a few rounds off the back of it, but they are constantly having to worry and think, and you know, just the added pressure can make it difficult in terms of the mental game. Great flash comes in for Soulcast here from Optimus. Unfortunately only able to find one as Mighty Max had already crept in behind. So into a 4-on-2 now. The superior weaponry of Endpoint coming out on top. And I think the London guys just trying to save what they can. Ooh, Stanley, that's so awkward. Jumps the gun a little bit early. Luckily for him, Robin was already on pretty low HP, and a Mac 10's not a great deal to save, but he's going to back away and just take it into the next round, because you might as well not really got a hope in hell for this 1 versus 3 that he's left himself in.
That said, Endpoint seemed to be trying to cut him off at the very least, but London, this wasn't really a round they expected to win, just trying to do as much damage as possible, bring a few AKs maybe into their hands, and if they could have saved that, then maybe there's a hope that they win the kind of save round for the London side, but unfortunately the SMG, not really what they were looking for, and Endpoint will get a 6th round, bring the lead within 5, but he could prove me wrong for sure. Stanley is definitely a capable enough player. I've seen a number of kind of strange buys work out in the past in typical UKCS fashion. Just cannot deal with the eco rounds sometimes. And
yeah, a lot of teams at this kind of level though, you know, like the tier 2, tier 3 kind of.
Yeah, the procedures are there.
Really, I don't know, I feel like a lot of them do struggle with, you know, one guy dies to a pistol and then everybody starts to try and compensate and panic, and you just see like 3 P250s and 2 USPs win it out. I mean, we see it at the top level sometimes, of course. So, but I just feel like it happens a little bit more often players can panic, communication can break down. So it's good to get that first opening pick and just feel, you know, a little bit more confident in yourself and gain a bit of control somewhere.
I'm looking forward to seeing the approach from London. On the CT side, I've already got a feeling that they're going to be a bit more sort of active than we saw from Endpoint, and so I don't think they'll suffer from the same fate, which was, for Endpoint's sake or perspective, they were often allowing 5 Ts just to more or less walk up to a bomb site without really having any engagements, which you never really want to have on this map. There's, you know, taking over sewers and connector, for example, as opposed to just connector. You know, that was maybe an additional thing that Endpoint could have looked to do in the previous half as well. You know, Astralis are pretty famous for that, or famous for being able to flash like a player through monster just to get a flank going at specific timings in the round. You know, stuff like that would be really cool to see from London. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to bring to bear now they have rifles.
You'll see more of what we saw yesterday. Astra on the AWP, a whole lot of utility available on this 4th round bye. So far, London seem content to take the fights. Endpoint on that CT side never really had the utility going for themselves, but given this decision from London, that shouldn't be an issue on their CT side.
A similar approach with Divider and the other side of the toilet smoked off at the beginning, taking the sniper angles away. And that will compromise how deep London will feel confident standing. The Soulcast is still deep in the toilets for now. Maybe in a potential flanking position. We'll see how this works out.
Astro as well, you know, again, a little bit more proactive with the angles. Soulcast creeps in. It's perfect. He only manages to get one, actually, and then gets dropped. So maybe a little bit more detrimental. I think he was unsure of whether to go for that, you know, 50-50. His heart wasn't really in it. And that actually gives a little bit more time and control to Endpoint, especially of this short area, the bathrooms area.
Well, I think this is an issue for Endpoint as well, because how much of their intentions were given away by the position seen by London? Do they rotate on this? Do they commit? Are the players on B going to get aggressive? Are they surrounded? They don't really know at the moment because they've got no lurkers around the map. So that's an issue for Endpoint as well.
That's very true. The lurkers was something for London on their T side, which was heavily effective. That's a bit of an easy shot for Astro to miss, honestly. A little bit of a shame for him, but he gets aggressive through the smoke. The hard ones, you know, he's getting them. Not quite able to find another ore, and again, the 2-target issue. Pulse, in fact, taking this round by the tail as he picks up 2 very quick kills and essentially secures it. There's a 3-on-3, it was under contention, and he just slaps him down. Link, the only one remaining, going to have to back away, save his M4, and I think they're already trying to set up a little bit preemptively for an exit frag with Robin over on this B site. I'm not sure if they're going to meet, though, to be honest. Or Link starts running, however, Robin got to be hungry for it. But yeah, I think the lurk is kind of like an interesting point to make, actually, because I don't think like Eccles seems to be very solidly lurking for London and is quite dynamic in that sense because he doesn't do it all the time, but it seems to be their plan for Overpass specifically. Whereas I feel Endpoint lack that solid lurk player a lot of the time on all maps. I don't know if you feel the same, Yumi, but
I'm a bit unsure. Yeah, I think you're right. Kind of the way Endpoint play, they're pretty much across all maps. They seem to be very passive, and they're happy to play passive, usually holding on to a lot of utility. But I think their problem for their CT side was always that the economy, not being able to string rounds together, and when they did win the rounds, it was very, very labored, very, very close.
Indeed. Just, you know, constant worry again on that CT side. You know, just never an easy round for them, it seemed.
It was a good sign for Pulse to get that double kill as well on the A site, just because he's been a bit quiet this game. He's kind of consistently put up 17, 16 frags in some of these games, and if he's able to get himself rolling and get himself engaged, then this will be a lot more of a difficult endeavor for London on the CT side, because they were able to get those entries on Pulse a number of times on the B bomb site before.
This is a nice anti-eco round so far. Molotoving the close quarters positions. Low player flying in. The trade comes eventually. A little delayed. I'm not sure what gun was in the water from Thomas, but indeed the trades do get there eventually. So I like the approach to the B bomb site there. They were as careful as one can be.
Yeah, I think to be fair, Thomas was on a Mac 10, so
Okay, that's fine.
although it seemed a bit weird from him, I think it was kind of like that info gathering, and then when they knew there was 2 there, it's like the double peak.
No, it's perfect. I think it's perfectly fine. Like, if you have a player with a bad weapon or a player who's low and you have numbers, then sometimes that person's job is to die. Just run out,
Yeah.
take the crosshairs away, and then have your teammates trade for you. That is something that casual players could do well to understand. It's like rushing a site, running out, the first person goes out wide. Maybe he dies, but his teammate's there to trade, has to create space for his team. That's essentially what he was doing there.
Yeah.
Cheap and expendable.
Going for it again, it would seem. Which can kind of work out. We see like Mac 10s in this sort of a situation. Okay, I was going to say there's 3 sets of head armor, but Link just upgraded his as he had a bit of spare cash. So we'll see. Can sometimes work. And then he swaps to an AK. So I look like a bit of an idiot. Thanks for that, Thomas.
Well, Robin picked it up, so it's still
right,
active.
okay. Cool. My guy Robin has my back. But yeah, I like... Oh, no. I think he was throwing it out of the map. By the looks of things. So, rest
now
in
he looks
peace,
like
Mac
an
10. Yeah.
But maybe it's just discussion. How much money do you think they have? Is there value in this? Maybe it's not worth the risk.
Very true, very true.
Maybe a bit indicative of their plan in the round as well. Maybe he wanted to play a bit faster, allow that SMG to create some space for the rifles to land the shots, and Robin with a nice little headshot onto Eccles brings him down to 11 HP, just on the edge of the wood. Eccles survives by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, he's going to be a bit annoyed by that one. Obviously on the AK. Say like 95% of the time, you know, you're landing headshots, you're killing them. But through surfaces, it is a little bit annoying. And often, you know, you get that kind of dink sound, you don't know, maybe these players do, but like sometimes you're not entirely sure of how much damage it's actually done. So like you call someone as dinked, but you've only done like 20 damage or whatever because of the nature of the surface. Ooh, 2 very quick kills come in for Endpoint. It was looking good for a second on the CT side of things. Seems there are frags all over the shop at the moment. Stanley, the only one remaining on this B site, getting a little bit proactive as he kind of feels that they're coming towards him, and Luzza not expecting it, but the quick reaction shots as he pulls out his AK at the perfect time. Bomb going to go down here, and those remaining 2 London players are over towards the A site. Eccles still on 11 HP. Feels like he's already tested fate getting a kill on that amount, so he's going to back off. Astro looking for some exits, I think. This is one of those positions where I'm always a little bit scared of what the player is doing, because it's like, you know, you're in a save situation, but you're standing for exits. It's like probably not the best of ideas. They have plenty of money, and that AWP could be really important to you in the next round. If you lose it, you know, it's going to make a bit of a difference, isn't it?
I thought it was a bit interesting in this round especially. We kind of highlighted Endpoint don't usually have a lurker. But in this round, I think it was Pulse that tried to get some foothold on the B bomb site with all the presence made on A and all the kills going their way. But Stanley finding that kill should have potentially had 2. Luzza jumping through a smoke is definitely not an advantageous fight for him. But
and this is kind of interesting. I was expecting it was going to be a game of like 2 CT halves, as it were. You know, the CT sides being the stronger for both teams overall, but it seems that London, I can kind of expect their T side to be pretty strong, you know, just because of the way that they play as a unit and as those individuals. But Endpoint, for me, are more consistently a little bit more CT sided. And after looking so uncomfortable on that CT side, I didn't have high hopes for them in the second half, but they have been absolutely dominating so far. And London, maybe, especially with the 4 pauses that they have available to them, might be a little bit too late. I saw a tweet on Imi's like timeline just before this as well. Someone was praising him for calling timeouts at the right time, not allowing, I can't really repeat what was said, but not allowing things to get too bad before calling a timeout. And it seems, I don't know, maybe he left it a little bit late here because Endpoint are on, you know, fantastic momentum and are only 1 round away from bringing it back to being even.
Eccles will find the first kill into Mighty Max. He thought he had all of long at his disposal, but unsuspecting of that cheeky rock. And Stanley, Molotov out once again. Endpoint so meticulous on these takes. And once again, they'll take the B-bomb site into a 4-on-2 situation, and I imagine they'll try and recover the weapons that were dropped earlier on. Yep, Soulcast picking up the AK of Mighty Max and kind of navigates past the cadaver in hopes that they can at least save these weapons going into this next round, because that will allow them at least a bit more utility available. Granted, they're on max money loss bonus, so
Hasn't helped them so far. They haven't won a single round this half, London. And Endpoint have so much money because, I mean, this wasn't a full buy in fairness from London, but the facts are facts. Like Mighty Max is going to have 16k. Even if London win one round, like they're just, in most scenarios where they win a round, they're going to be in massive trouble, where it'll actually be beneficial almost for Endpoint to lose a round. Yeah. Because they're going to have so much money. London will probably have a weaker buy. So if they lose a round and win the next one, they probably win the map. Endpoint.
London really have to turn this half on its head. You know, they can't just, like you say, closely win a round. They need to hope that the timeout that they took is really going to help them out, you know, and just spin everything around. Ooh, and that is perfect timing, you know, from Thomas. Link gets taken down. Really clean entry towards that B site, and now they've solidly locked out any other players. Eccles able to get one, but immediately there's someone there for the refrag. Bomb plant going to be coming in. Stanley gets taken down by a bit of a flank from Mighty Max, and it's another save situation. Astro does not have a chat. He really wants to use this orb. He really wants to get a frag, but unfortunately they are nowhere near him for the most part, and he misses it when he's given the chance. So
this is deja vu.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same situation as, like, I think it was 2 rounds ago or something like that. And again, like, Endpoint might lose some people hunting, but aside from that, once again, they lose like one player around basically. So they just have way too much money, and London likely, and they will lose everything. So I don't know if London are going to win. I don't see how they win around this half from what we've seen so far, which is a lot of rounds this half. I mean, there have been more than 5 bomb plants. We can't tell if the bomb was planted in the rounds where Endpoint won by elimination, like the last round. So there's been 6+ bomb plants. Pretty much every round the bomb's going down. London are barely killing anybody in this half. So, I mean, what do they need to change is probably the question they're asking themselves in this second timeout now. Whatever we're doing, it's not working. But we've been completely overrun. I mean, only 4 CT rounds have been won this entire match, and they were all by Endpoint, and that might be the deciding factor in this first map. But London have got to take the game away from Endpoint.
And it seems like Endpoint have gone back to that same kind of set play on the B site, like 4 or 5 rounds, and consistently gotten those entries, right? And only losing Thomas really consistently, but he's happy to not have all the rifles and all the utility available because he is creating that space. He's allowing the rifles to do their job, and I imagine there'll be a bit more presence towards Connector and maybe Monster. If they show some initiative there, then they at least eliminate the fact of that B-side hit. But Astro just caught in no man's land, and same with Soulcast. He's lost his teammate, he can't support, and 2 entries go their way so rapidly. Endpoint, a huge amount of control in this round.
Eccles able to pull one back, but it's just not really looking too good. I tell you what, that play over towards mid, I would have been so tilted. You know, Astro is kind of there, he sees his teammate is in actually quite a good spot, so I think he backed away and didn't take the fight because he wanted them to come after him and then Soulcast in from the side. But Soulcast just moved around the corner, didn't want anything to do with it, and just left his teammate, you know, out to dry. And I feel like at this late stage of the game, when they've lost so many rounds, again, absolutely dominated in the second half, that's something that's really going to break down communication when they've not really talked about what each player is doing in that situation. It's cost both of them their lives, when it could have actually been quite a good setup for Soulcast to pick up a few frags early on.
The funny thing about it is that finally they did what they were supposed to do. Those bathroom smokes have been way too powerful for Endpoint. They're making them look like way too strong. When course, you can just have that forward smoke towards mid as the CTs, and then you have information as to whether they're pushing or not behind it, because Endpoint have used those smokes to fake in one of the rounds previous as well. But then not to have the protocol that if you spot someone connector, that you set up the crossfire, you know, the guy on the banana looks towards party and vice versa. But maybe there's a chance here. They've got the bomb, although they don't have much health or much to work with to really make the round work anyway. So this is quite a depressing half, isn't it, for London, all things considered.
Oh, it just keeps getting worse as well. Astro does pick up the kill, but had to work for it, and obviously that's going to buy time for Endpoint to just retrieve the bomb, move towards B.
But like you said, it seems a bit disjointed from London, right? Astro's in a position where he can potentially help his teammate escape connector, and he just kind of leaves him alone. And although he gets the kill in the end, he could potentially be in a 2v2 in this situation, right? But given the positions of Pulse, they're just not going to be able to put up much of a contest in.
Yeah.
It has all been Endpoint in this half. It has been a struggle all the way through for London, despite the fact that they're able to consistently muster together buys, and better buys than Endpoint were able to put together on their CT side.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of back and forth that's missing. Well, like, you never really want to give anything away for free in Counter-Strike. If it's contested map control, you just don't want to give it away for free. So what you see is a lot of teams, they'll throw the smoke on mid, they'll jump somebody up onto party with an AWP, they'll take a shot. Don't even have to really necessarily show yourself, but just showing the presence slows down the Ts. If they throw smokes at the start of the round, you punish them because the smokes go away by the time they get to that portion of the map. Then they have to work much harder to get onto a site, spend much more utility, and have to hold that fort because you do have them just running up long.
Endpoint very close to securing this first map then against kind of all the odds. Definitely not what we expected after the first half. It's been a very interesting game so far. Or Eccles might just have a bit of a chance, but again, can't quite find the shots. They just walked up long and gotten away with it. Able to pick up 2. They've got to know that there's another player in towards Banana. They do indeed. Mighty Max plants the bomb, takes it down. And
only one of them has actually converted one bullet.
Yeah.
They fired off like 20, 30 shots, and
it's just like perfect CS from Endpoint right now. I mean, London are giving them a fair amount of control, but at the same time, Endpoint are just playing it so well.
But London aren't punishing like some of these peaks, right? Like on the site, Eccles could have potentially got one, right? Just completely whiffs everything. It didn't seem like London were really. It's kind of a derogatory term in the UK, but they're just not shooting back. And the fact that Endpoint are all kind of in double-digit territory, or like 16k almost on everybody, then you know that something is going terribly wrong on the CT side. But Eccles will start off the round very good with that ult picking connector.
Yeah, and for the first time in a long time, it appears they're going to have a pretty solid advantage here. Stanley with a nice flash coming through, able to pick up another. So London got some control. We got 2-man advantage, you know. We'll see how Endpoint now react, that they are the ones on the back foot. Link up close with the MP9, waiting for the walk through the smoke. He does get traded, but I think that's fine at this point. But Robin is able to pick up another. There's only one more player remaining in the form of Stanley on this B site. A little bit of an interesting spot from him. Robin manages to get the reaction shot though. Mighty Max takes down Eccles, and Solcas is the only one left, but he gets the double spray down and does save the round for London. But like you mentioned quite a while ago, James, winning a round is almost detrimental, especially in that fashion, because they have such little money to work with, and Endpoint are like, well, that's cool. We can just buy up all the same. And
yeah, it's almost easier to win. That was a pretty bad buy from them in the previous round. But it's not even too little too late necessarily, because they were only 4 rounds behind. So while it will be a struggle for a while, because Endpoint have max buys for days and London definitely don't, if they I mean, they may need a little luck with timing, having the pop flashes at the right time and so on, but they don't have the AWP this time, no cheeky pick and escape from connector, so it is going to be a lot harder to get that opening kill. But we'll see if they can take some momentum from that one round that they've won in this half.
that's what we'd hope. Give them a little bit of something, you know, to hold on to. Endpoint, though, it's kind of in that position where you just need the one perfect round. Going back to the tried and tested B push, it would seem, but kind of slowing things down, I think, before they get there. They've set up a little bit more of a default set, ready for the aggression hit. It's a good read, to be fair, from Endpoint, but unfortunately, the connections are not there. It's Soulcast to find the first kill. And once again, London are off to a pretty solid start here. This causes a reaction from the rest of the Endpoint guys to move towards that B site. Stanley, though, not smoked off, and he will make quick work of Pulse and Thomas. Luzzer gets the bomb down at the very least, but is the only one remaining. Misses the shot, and Link is easily able to clean him up. So London have really switched it around here. A very, very dominant round coming in from them this time, as they were given that small opportunity with the clutch from the end. That one solo play seems to have helped them out morale-wise, and a nice bit of proactive movement.
Makes all the difference, right?
And the fact that they're able to recover AKs off those FAMASs and kind of the pour buy coming into that round, now they've got a little bit more space to work with, right? If they lose maybe 3 or 4 players, they should be able to drop weapons over and still have a decent amount of rounds or a decent amount of money and equipment available, but still need to bring at least 2 back to push in overtime in our very first game of the finals.
Would be nice, wouldn't it? But it seems Endpoint are trying to get this one finished. Seemingly going in for a quick B hit, but kind of stagnated just outside Monsters. Stanley is on the flank, and no one is really ready for it. Luzzer and Mighty Max are lagging towards behind, but a nice little setup, I suppose, does allow Stanley to only get 1, but it's Eccles in from jungle. Picks up 2. Brings it into a 2-on-2 with Robin getting the trade. It's been a very fast round as Endpoint were trying to catch off guard this CT side, and I think they might just have been able to get away with it. Eccles has got to find the 4K to keep his team in it. Bomb going to go down. He's on half HP. They know exactly where he is. Smoke cuts out a channel, allows Luzzer a little bit more breathing room. They're just slowly trying to reposition so they can set up a pretty decent trade frag situation. Eccles takes down Robin, but Luzzer is there with the immediate trade and cannot find it in the end. 16-13. It's a nice try from London, but I think certainly too little too late. Just perfect half from Endpoint, honestly.
Well, that was quite a slog, wasn't it? Again, looking good in the first half with so little CT rounds won, but then it was, well, worse than a mirror in the second. And in post, I think it is indeed just the reaction came in too late. Maybe if they took some aggression perhaps 6 rounds ago, then maybe they would have been in for a chance to win this one. After picking up all those AKs, I think things look pretty good for them, but they just narrowly didn't win those duels in that very last round. So it will be Endpoint taking the first match of this series. But again, I think there's plenty of lessons to be learned there for London Esports. Just changing the pace, like just have to realize what is going on earlier on. You had plenty of evidence of that. We have to just take the game to their opponent. I mean, some people like try to change something small to take round over the line. Didn't quite work out for them. As you can see, everybody for the most part, well, it was a horrible game for Astro. Let's say that. 8 kills for him in 29 rounds is not ideal. So